Hi and welcome to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Collins, who with my expert guests will take you on a weekly journey to destinations around the globe, providing travel inspiration, itinerary ideas, practical tips and more to help you plan your next travel adventure. Hi and welcome to episode 22 of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. This week, I'm back in Brisbane after a few weeks in Western Australia, specifically visiting Perth and the beautiful Margaret River area. Which brings me smoothly into introducing this week's guest, Kerry, who featured in episode 20, sharing her experiences and travels in Margaret River, which I find extremely useful when exploring the area myself. In this week's episode, I chat with Kerry all about her recent travels in central China, which are absolutely fascinating. But for those of you who have yet to listen to episode 20, I started by asking Kerry to firstly introduce herself, tell us a bit about where she lives and what it is that she does.
Okay, my name is Kerry Heaney. I live in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, and I'm a travel writer. I've been a travel writer for over 20 years. And I also have a food and travel blog called Eat, Drink and Be Kerry. So, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube as well. So you can see lots of stuff. This Zhangjiajie, haven't said it for a little while, Zhangjiajie trip and Changsha trip made a lot of good YouTube clips.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, I'm going to have to pop over and have a look at that, Kerry, after. And I have noticed that you've been doing some stuff on YouTube, which is my new thing to learn is YouTube, actually. So I will have a look at those and we will put links to your channels in the show notes as well. But after our last chat on episode 20, when we were talking about Margaret River, you mentioned that you were jetting off to China for a trip to central China. So somewhere that I've never been before. So I'd love you to tell us all about the trip, what it was, where you flew from, how long you were away for, and the places that you visited. So that's a lot of questions, but give us a kind of overall where you went and what you did.
Sure. So I went with Wendy Wu, Wendy Wu Tours. Wendy Wu's a well-established tour group travel company in the UK and Australia. She does all-inclusive tours, so you don't need to worry too much about anything when you get there, and I certainly didn't have to worry very much about anything. The tour that I took with Wendy was a very large one because it was to take travel agents back to China because, China's been a little bit closed off after COVID, and but it's now wide open. And in fact, last week, they have made it so that you don't have to apply for a visa. For Australians don't have to apply for a visa, which is wonderful because getting the visa was a process that I didn't want to do again quickly.
So it's good to know you don't have to do that.
You don't have to
from
do
Australia.
that. No.
That's good.
So that is really, really good. So we flew from Sydney. So I'm in Brisbane, of course. I flew down to Sydney. Got on a plane with a whole lot of probably about 20 other Australians, and we flew to where did we fly to? Guangzhou, and that was from Sydney to Guangzhou, and started to connect up with some other people who we met there, and then flew on to Changsha. Now we flew with China Southern Airlines, and I have to say that the trip was fabulous. The food was Asian, so you need to get your head around that, but that's what you're going to be eating in China anyhow. So, get on to that. It was good. I flew just economy and no problems. Although I did upgrade myself for the trip back and I went to premium economy on the trip back because it was a night flight. And that gave me, and that was really worthwhile.
Oh, I don't blame you. I don't blame you for it, certainly for a night flight. But that's good to know because I've never flown with China Southern, so that's good to hear that, actually.
Yeah, it was good. I'm planning to write a review on my website, but yes, I'd like to clone myself sometimes so that I can do all the things I'd like to do. So we got to Changsha and we picked up at the airport, and I suppose this is where I'm going to explain a little bit about the trip. So we got in the bus, and we're going along the roads, and I'm thinking, China's a really big place, lots and lots of people. Why aren't there any cars on the road? Well, The reason is because this trip was sponsored by the Chinese government. So they had decided that we were travelling in buses as a convoy, and they gave us a police escort. So
wow.
because we had a really, really action-packed itinerary. So the police escort got us as quickly as possible from one place to another so we could fit everything in. Because I have to say, when I looked at the itinerary, I thought, oh, my God, I'm going to die after this.
It's because you're a VIP, Kerry. Come on, that's why.
It was very full on, very full on. So, we had assistance from the Chinese government to make sure that we got to see everything we wanted to do. So we started and we stayed in Changsha for 2 nights. This is the 3rd biggest city in China. Have you ever heard of Changsha?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
No. I mean, I've been to Beijing and I've been to Shanghai and I've done the Great Wall of China and I've been to Sanya, which is like Hawaii's version of, China's version of Hawaii with palm trees. And
okay.
I know it's quite a, really, am I in China place? Anyhow, so I had an idea of what China was going to be like, but this was really exceeding, this whole trip exceeded my expectations. I was pretty well blown away the whole time by, oh, my God, this and that. Anyhow, back to Changsha. Oh, we saw some amazing things. So probably I'll give you the highlights.
Yep.
We went on this river cruise, right? So imagine quite a long river. It must have been probably about 10, maybe 15 kilometres of riverbank, maybe even more than that. It just seemed to go forever. Completely surrounded by tall high-rise buildings that are all playing a light show that travels from one building to another. So we're on a boat in the middle of the river watching these beautiful illuminations on the river. They're not they're built into the building. So goodness knows what it's like to be on the other side.
Because do people live in these buildings or they're like apartment blocks? Buildings. Oh, okay.
Well, they could be office blocks as well, I suppose. But, they yeah, I don't know. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. We go past this big, giant head of Chairman Mao back when he was a bit of a hottie. I don't know if you've seen any photos of Chairman Mao in his, usually you see him in his old age.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a hottie. But he was younger. He looked pretty damn good. So
wow.
There's this big head of him on what they call Orange Island. We sort of had a bit of a look at that, walked around. We went to another place we went to, which was really amazing, is, when I first started traveling, we went to Singapore, and you go through the alleyways where, there were lots of hawkers and everything was quite crowded, and it was really interesting with lots of lights and different stalls selling stuff. Well, of course, they got rid of all that in Singapore. I think they probably got rid of it anyway. And in China, they've eliminated a lot of those sort of things, but now they're bringing them back.
Okay.
And this place was a recreation of what it was like to dine in the 1980s. And it was very authentic, right down to the grit on the floor and the dirty walls and a little bit of no, there was no graffiti. So we went there and we had dinner, and we had to get suited up with bibs because we had the chili crab, and that was a fabulous experience. It finished off with a cable car ride around the top of the building, so that you could see. Yeah, a cable car ride inside the building.
Yeah, when you said that, I'm like thinking, I was imagining it, and then you said around the building. I'm like, wow,
yeah, inside.
Wow.
Inside. So you can look at everybody down there and they look up at you and yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was, look, the whole thing was crazy. What else did we do in Changsha? We went to a museum that they opened specially for us. We were the only people there, 100 travel agents and a few travel writers, and they played music on instruments that were like 2,500 years old.
Wow. Yeah,
there was a bit of Chinese singing, which is an acquired taste.
Yeah, I thought I was going to ask that.
Yeah. But, that was really interesting. And then we got a look around the museum. We went to the Yuli Academy, which is the oldest, I think the second oldest university in the world. been there forever. That was a collection of interesting old buildings. We went to a museum that actually had the body of this woman who had they'd found this mound and they'd excavated the mound, and she was something like 2.5 million years old. It was like, I will have to check that because I can't see my notes on that one, and I haven't written up Changsha yet. But it was a huge, she was dug out of the ground, and they showed you all the way that she was buried. And evidently, this is really weird, when she was dug up, her limbs were still flexible.
Oh, wow.
I know. She was mummified.
I was going to say, like, they must have been bombed or, mummified.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was mummified.
Okay.
So that was a pretty weird one. And out of respect, we did not take photos of the lady because she was dead, and we were told that was good. So I haven't got any photos of her, and I tried to get some photos from somewhere else, but no, that didn't work. Okay, so it was 2 days in Changsha, and then we got on a bullet train and went to Zhangjiajie. So the bullet train was pretty interesting. That travels at about 120 kilometres an hour. It's weird because, you're sitting in the seat and it doesn't feel like you're moving that fast. And you look out the window, and if you look at something close to you, it's like moving at warp speed. But you look out further and it's just the countryside is just going past. So nothing to be worried or anything about. It was a great trip, and we got there in about 2.5, I think it's maybe 3 hours. We got to Zhangjiajie, got out there, and our first stop was what they called the 72-story building, or 72-floor building. And in my mind, I'd converted that to 72-story building because, that's what we're used to in Western cultures, 72-story. And I thought, oh, gee, this is going to be really big. And they kept saying, oh, this is a really fabulous place. And I think, it's a big, tall building. No, it's a 72-floor building. And it's wooden, and they're called Tui stilt houses. So this was another sort of the Tui group is one of the ethnic groups that are all of a sudden back in favour in China. So there were 2 ethnic groups that we were sort of introduced to there. And so they built this thing, and it was the most amazing construction of bits sort of higgledy-piggledy attached to each other. You really have to Google it and have a look at the photos because there's no way that I can really explain how that sort of – think of a kid's Lego construction that is sort of where they've joined it at the wrong levels.
Yeah. So did you get a photo of that? Or was it – yeah?
I think I sent you a photo of that from the outside. I'll send you a photo of the whole thing. Yeah,
that'll be good to see because I'm trying to imagine that.
I know, it's really hard. And so we had dinner before we went in to have a look at the place, and that's where I got the welcome tea ceremony, I thought. So there's a YouTube clip of me having the tea ceremony, and I was very keen. My group volunteered me for this. One person on each table was volunteering. I think, oh, no, that's fine. I just have to drink some tea. Well, so it's like 3 women line up, and they pour the tea from a teapot into another pot and into another pot and then into my mouth with a cup underneath in case I can't swallow it all. So it's like, and then they're singing this song while they're doing it, which is, sorry, apologies to anyone I've offended with my Chinese singing. But the thing is, it wasn't tea. It was Chinese wine.
Oh, I was going to ask, was it not going to be too hot? But if it was wine,
no. It was Chinese wine. And I'd been warned not to have Chinese wine because rice wine, because it can be very strong.
Yeah.
Be careful of the Chinese rice wine. And so I'm thinking, oh, my God, I'm not going to be able to walk after this. They're just pouring it in my mouth. So it's a pretty funny video. Actually, I found out later it was low alcohol rice wine. So I wasn't in any danger, but I didn't know that at the time.
That's good. So when you stood up, you could actually stand up rather than stand up and fall down.
Yeah. And it's just as well because this is also the time where I ate the giant salamander. So we're in the restaurant and they told us that giant salamander is a local delicacy. And I thought, oh, yeah, okay, I can do that. I try most foods. So they brought out the giant salamander and they put it on the thing. And I'd been eating sushi in the last restaurant. I thought, oh, it's raw. Okay, well, that's okay. They must be for you to eat it raw. So I ate some and I thought, okay, it's a bit chewy. It's not exactly. And then I found out it was actually supposed to go in soup. So I eaten this raw giant salamander that was supposed to go in the soup. It was supposed to be cooked, and I thought, oh, my God, what am I going to do? Am I going to end up with stomach problems? But I didn't.
Oh, that's good.
But I did Google giant salamanders, and I found out they're about 5 feet tall. They're huge. They farm them, and because they used to grow in the wild, but, there's none left in the wild, evidently. They're highly endangered because I think they've all been caught to eat. So they farm them now.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably because people are just eating them, Kerry.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not raw, though.
No, probably not.
In the soup. Definitely. So definitely top recommendation for China, I think, is to go outside your comfort zone and try some of the unusual foods that you'll come across, like giant salamander. You don't die. I'm evidence that you don't die. And,
okay.
try all these things because it's really fun. It really adds to the experience. So then we went into the 72-story floor building complex and walked through that. So it's another recreation of what they would have had. I don't know, probably not 72 stories, but it shows you the stilted buildings. It shows you the sort of food that they have from the regions. It's quite authentic, walking around. You think that you're in an old place because the cobblestones are rough, the wood is definitely rough in places, and, it looks like the alleyways, and there's beautiful lights and it's all nice. And then you come across an escalator.
A bit out of place.
There's the escalator up to the top story, and I think, right, this is obviously very. And they staged this show, which was didn't make a lot of sense to me. It was at the time, but I did hear the story later. It's the crying wife, the crying bride. That's right. So evidently, what happened is it's a Chinese legend. What they did was when a bride has to leave her parents' home to get married, she cries because she's unhappy to be leaving them, and even though she's excited about starting a new life. So the more she cries, the more silver they give her. So she cries a lot. And then they turn the silver into these really beautiful hats that they wear because, they wear all their wealth. And so there's photos. I don't know if I sent you one of those. I'll send you one of those photos too, of the beautiful costumes that the women were wearing with the hats made of silver. I don't know if these ones were silver because, probably not nowadays. But anyhow, who knows? They look silver. Okay. And then I'm wandering around, and then we had to come back for the final show of the night, and this was a fire show. They had a bonfire, and there was all this dancing. All these men came out dancing, and it was the sort of thing, the Chinese version of the Village People, because they're wearing all these costumes. One of them had a big gold chain around his neck, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? I could not work this one out at all. And then to finish it off, there's a trapeze wire around the thing, and in comes this girl dressed up like a sort of floating robe, sort of like an angel, with a bubble gun. And she's putting the audience in bubbles. Someone described it as a fever dream.
It sounds it.
And I think
I have to ask, Kerry, so this stuff that you experienced when you went to China, is that being aimed at visitors to China, or do the Chinese people themselves also enjoy those experiences?
Yes, there were lots of Chinese people. I don't know where they were from, whether they were, I would expect they're not locals, though they could be locals, but Zhangjiajie is a very popular destination for Chinese travellers. And we certainly saw a lot of Chinese travellers during our trip. So, yeah, I mean, in the restaurant, we filled up one room, but there were other rooms filled with local travellers. It's, local people. So, yeah, it was amazing. So I'm only on day 3 here. I hope you've got plenty of time. So the next morning we got up pretty early and we got on a bus and we went to, where did we go to?
I have to say, I'm glad you're pronouncing these names, because I know when you sent them through to me, there was absolutely no way that I could pronounce them. I was like, it would take me a week to just be able to read and try and even think. So you're doing really well.
Yeah. I think after you hear it a lot, it's a lot easier. But I mean, I'm a little bit out of practice, so that's why I'm stumbling a bit. Then we got on the bus and we went to the UNG scenic spot. Now, this is the place where the Avatar Mountains are. So I'll explain that by saying, the movie Avatar?
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing was sort of inspired the landscape of the big tree and the floating mountains and all that sort of stuff, and lots of little things like the things that they tied in the trees and the really forest-like landscape. That was all inspired by this particular area of China, which is, and it's spectacular. So we went there. First thing we had to do was get into the tallest outdoor elevator in the world. So it's the tallest outdoor elevator in the world. You get in and it takes 2.5 minutes really fast to get from the bottom to the top. And, of course, there's a window. So you can see that. That's another YouTube clip. And we get to the top. And then you start walking around looking at, it's quite there's a lot of people there, and you walk along the paths and you go through there. And then you see the mountains revealed in their absolute amazing glory. They're just like pillars coming up from the ground. Some of them are green, some of them you can see the rocks there, but they're just like one after the other everywhere in the landscape. And you look out at them and they're so tall. It's just amazing because you're so tall, you're so high up.
Yeah.
So that was probably the first thing that we did that really started to set the scene for what this place was all about. Let's see. So we came home from there. Oh, okay. So then we went that night. We went to the theatre. So I don't know if you've ever been to a Cirque du Soleil performance. So these are acrobats, or you've seen Chinese acrobats, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, that was all of this rolled into a performance in a theatre, and there was drumming, fire drumming, and there was people cavorting around the stage on poles, and there was the Crying Bride again. we had another performance of the Crying Bride, and it was a really outstanding performance, I would think. And I did price that because I thought, well, I know how much I pay if I go to Cirque du Soleil in Australia, and those tickets are probably $100 and something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was $36 to $40, I think. 36, to 6, maybe 63
mm-hmm.
at the top, whatever seats, which is a very reasonable price for the style of the performance. Was amazing. So what did we do? The next day we got up again very early. And we went and we did a cruise on Baofeng Lake, which was a lovely lake in the mountains, beautiful. I think I did send you a photo of that one. It's a lovely green lake, and you cruise on there in a boat. And they had this custom on the lake where, as you go past, you can sing a song to one of the people who lives in the houses there. Now, I expect this is all, set up for tourists now, but it's drawing on a custom that was there before. So as we're going along, a girl comes out of one of the little houses on the water, and she sings a song, and we have to sing a song back. And they've got to be love songs. So it was, thank goodness we had somebody on the boat who could sing. So, and we did that a couple of times. And the really weird thing, so again, there was just so many contrasts. The really weird thing about this beautiful lake is in the middle of the lake, there's a golf tee, so that you can hit you. Because there was a golf competition there, or somebody's put in a floating golf tee.
And somebody's got to aim for that from the boat or from the land?
Aim from the top, coming down. So it's surrounded by mountains.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. And then looking at it, I think, yeah, okay. So what else? That day we went on the Tiananmen Mountain.
Okay.
So we took a cable car up to the mountain. We got off at the mountain, the top of the mountain, and started to walk out. And then we were on this glass bridge, the glass walkway. So you're on the side of the mountain, the highest mountain you can imagine, and you're walking around, and the pathway is made of glass.
I'm not sure I'd want to do that, I have to tell you. You're saying that, and I'm kind of going, no.
Well, you could walk really close to the mountain, and you would be pretty well on the side of, on the mountain there. But yeah, it's just walking around on the glass part walkway.
With my eyes shut, because that would be me.
With your eyes shut. Oh, no, you wouldn't, because there's a lot of people there.
Is that not scary? I have to ask, did you find that scary, or are you not bothered about heights?
I'm pretty good with heights. I can't step down onto a glass walkway, but I can walk on a glass walkway. Okay. It's a silly little mind difference, but stepping down onto a glass walkway to me feels like jumping off a cliff, and I can't.
Yeah.
But walking along the glass walkway, I can do that. So we got along, we're walking along the glass walkway. We're seeing all the beautiful mountains from another aspect, which was really nice. And then we come across a place where it's shaded and everyone's having a bit of a rest. And here's a McDonald's or Hungry Jack's.
It's such a juxtaposition, isn't it? Just listening to you talking through, it's like there's so many things which are just so alien and foreign to us as Westerners, and then all of a sudden you've got, like, there you are, bam, McDonald's.
So, and there's no litter, which in Australia there would be litter, because there seems to be, but there's no litter. Everything's really tidy. I don't think anyone would dare to do the wrong thing. So we're on the really tall part of the mountain. How do you get down from there? How would you normally get down from a mountain like that? Well, in China, you take escalators inside the mountain.
No way.
Yeah. And they said 5 banks of escalators, and I swear there must have been more than 5 banks, because, you've been in the tube in London. You know how tall those ones are.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
at least that tall, and 5 banks of them.
And inside the mountain?
Inside the mountain. So that takes you about halfway down.
Yeah.
And then we got out, and then we're at Heaven's Gate, which is also in the Avatar movie. So you can you walk down and you can see Heaven's Gate, which is like a keyhole through the middle of the mountain. And then from that keyhole, there are 99 terraces of stairs, or 990. Must be 999 steps down.
Right.
But they like 9, so there's a lot of 9s. And you can walk down from there, or if you like, Kerry, you can take another bank of escalators, because my knee was sore.
I was just about to ask, if you don't want to do the 999 steps, can you take an elevator? And you answered that, or the escalator. Escalators.
You can take an escalator down here, which was a bit funny, because some of the escalators, you know how sometimes escalators are not working properly. And so we saw some Chinese people walking up the escalators. And I thought, do you really know how far you've got to go?
Yeah, no. I think I'd be coming back another day if that was the case.
But they were all very welcoming. I think in the escalator we really saw it a lot, where people were saying ni hao or hello, and some, groups of women going past, and they were singing songs to us. And, so that was really lovely and welcoming,
yeah.
I'd say. Yeah. So when we got down the bottom, we got the bottom of the stairs, and you can watch the people who were walking down. They actually didn't take much longer than we did to go down the escalators, which was weird. We got to the bottom. There's more food outlets and some gift shops. And then we all had to get on another cable car down the mountain. And while you're doing that, you can see, and you could see it from the top as well, the 99 Bend Road. So, again, 9s again. And, this is, you've got to say, hairpin turns at every one of those 99 bends would have been a hairpin turn. Not recommended for anyone who gets car sick.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
Not recommended. So we got down and we took the cable car down. But I think you can. There's some places where you can drive, but we didn't do that, so I can't really tell you too much about it. We got down. I think we had a free night that night. Thank goodness.
Sounds like you needed it because it was.
We did need it.
Pretty busy.
Yeah. So the next one was. What did we do the next day? So then the next day we got up again nice and early, got in a bus, and we went to another place where they have the glass bridge. So this is China's Grand Canyon. Now, I've been to the USA Grand Canyon, and I've got to say it's got it all over this one in terms of canyonness. This is interesting, but it's not like the Grand Canyon in the USA. But it does have a glass bridge.
Right.
So the glass bridge is really made of glass. There are sections that are not glass. So, Tracy, you would be able to walk across it. And if you're really feeling wild, you can bungee jump from the glass bridge.
Definitely wouldn't be doing that one.
No. Well, I stood there for a while and I watched somebody bungee jump because you can see through the glass, you can see them below trying to work up the courage, and it was really amazing. This is a lovely little Chinese girl, and she was trying to work up the courage, and she'd walk towards it, and then you could just see it. Her whole body's shaking, and she'd have to go and sit down, and they'd talk to her again, and she'd get up and she'd try, and then she'd go back off and sit down, but she finally did it.
Wow.
So I've got that in. There's a video on that as well.
Oh, I tell you, I will be looking at your YouTube channel later.
Yeah, they're all in the shorts. I haven't put it together in a long form yet, but it's all in the shorts. Then we got I'm not sure where this one fits in, but the other thing we did do was the world's longest cable car ride.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that. So how long is the longest?
Yeah, I'd have to confirm.
Long.
It's a long way.
It's a long.
We said to them, I said, air conditioned? And they said, yes, it's air conditioned. It's because it can get quite hot in China. And the air conditioning was opening the window. So we all got up the other end thinking, give us water. It was a bit hot. But
How
it was
long
amazing.
did that take? How long did it take on the
It was
longest?
about 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah,
did you see nice things on your in?
Yeah, it was quite very scenic.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
And then there was another show. So we're getting to the end of it. And the last show was set against the Avatar Mountains. That was the backdrop.
Oh, I bet that's nice.
And it was an outdoor theatre, so that their whole it's sort of, I don't know how they did it, but it was the fox. And she was a mythical fairy fox who was looking for love and couldn't find it. And there was a village and she found a man and the prince wanted her and all that sort of stuff. So that was beautifully set against this backdrop, which is beautifully lit. Evidently somebody to do with the Olympics was involved with the production. So it's a really good production. He obviously didn't write the captions because on the side they've sort of giving an interpretation of what's happening, and the captions come up. And one of the things was, in the morning I pout my bottom. So we're all in hysterics about pouting your bottom in the morning. I can, you can work out what that means, but some of the captions were a little bit funny. And that was about an hour and a half of production, which was really, really lovely. And that was our final night. And then the next morning we're up at 5:00 to get the bullet train back, and then to get on another bus and another plane and another plane. And I came home, thank goodness.
So how many days were you away in total?
I was in China for 7 days.
Okay.
And I was away probably 9 because of the travelling.
Yeah, on either side.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, because I know your itinerary was developed for travel agents and travel writers like yourself. So I'm guessing that wouldn't be a typical Wendy Wu tour if I was going to book one to Central China.
No.
So if I was gonna, if I'm listening to this and thinking, wow, I like the idea of some of these experiences that Kerry's had, and I fancy seeing some of these, are they included in some of the Wendy Wu tours for Central China?
Yes. So very good question there. Wendy Wu has 2 new tours to China, and they both include aspects of Zhangjiajie and Changsha. So they will certainly take you and give you most of the experiences we had, and also one that I didn't have, which was, I think, something I'd want to do if I went again, was a cave, which, with stalactites, stalagmites, that sort of thing, all beautifully lit. So I think that would be interesting to see as well. But you can, a lot of these experiences would be available and are included in the Wendy Wu's China tours. Yeah.
Okay, so I know obviously you had a lot of, just listening to you talk about the experiences that you had. I have to say I'm fascinated. I actually have not been to China. I've been to Hong Kong, which I guess counts these days, but that's as far as I have been. So China, it does fascinate me, and it's somewhere I'd like to visit, but I'd never thought about Central China. I have to tell you, until we started chatting, I was like, but actually this sounds like there's some absolutely fantastic experiences and amazing things that you did. So tell me what your highlights were, Kerry.
Yeah, I think the highlights were, the food that I tried that I'd never experienced anywhere else. They gave me a little grab bag, and I've still got some of that here. I've got a Kit Kat with cheese in it. I've got some things that I've tried. This one recently, it looks like a little soap or a little cookie, and it's a cookie that tastes like soap.
Okay, you're not selling those to me so far.
No, but this is sort of, weird stuff. I love to try weird stuff. Highlights were the glass bridge, the cable car, the escalator, the elevators, and, drinking the tea and discovering it wasn't tea, the salamander soup, and just, so many things that your eyes see that are just so different to what I'm used to in my normal everyday life. And, everybody was really friendly. The accommodations were good. I couldn't, there was nothing there that I would not recommend for people to give it a go. I think China is a place that's going to take you outside your comfort zone, and so many experiences that you can have. I mean, the things that was 2 things that I didn't do. I didn't do the zip line because the zip line ended in an luge, a sort of slide, and my knee was playing up a bit by that stage. And I have to say that if you've got, you do need to be pretty fit to do the destinations I've talked about, because there are a lot of stairs and there's no way around the stairs. So I think they've got it as a Category 2 tour with Wendy Wu, which is sort of means it's certainly not for anybody with disability problems or accessibility problems. I'm not sure the correct terminology there. But you've got to be able to do it. I mean, I'm no spring chicken, but I was pretty good until my knee started to cause me a bit of a problem. But anyhow, I did it all.
Which is good. Good for you. I mean, I just kind of reflecting back a little bit about what you're saying as well, and it's isn't that what travel's all about? Well,
Yes.
That's what it's about for me. It's going and just taking yourself out your comfort zone and experiencing something that you would never ever, that even in your consciousness you could never imagine, because it's just so far removed from what your normal life is, and also meeting people whose life that is the norm for. That is how they live their life. And it's like, that's why I travel, because I want to go and see all that. So you're definitely selling Central China to me, Kerry, I have to say. But I do have to talk to you about food, because I am notoriously picky. I spent 3 weeks in Japan last year and lost weight. I know. And I'm the only person on the planet who does not enjoy Chinese food, Japanese food. So, I literally lived on egg sandwiches.
Yes.
So unfortunately, so I'm really picky, and I know you're kind of the queen of food.
Yes.
So how would I deal with that as somebody who's a little bit, I can take myself out my comfort zone. I'm just very anti-fish. I don't like anything to do with fish.
Yes.
So would I be all right in China? That's what I'm asking.
Yes, you would. I was going to say to you, well, if I never see a lazy Susan again, I would be quick. I can go with that one for quite a while. So basically all our meals were banquet style, where they would come out and put a lot of stuff on a lazy Susan. And so you could pick whatever you wanted to eat. There was pretty well always chips. And I'm not sure if it was fish or chicken because it's, battered, little battered things that were sort of, a version of chicken and chips or, usually there's vegetables.
Oh,
so
right.
Chinese style vegetables, and some beautiful vegetables that we had. There was one combination I thought was very inventive, and I don't know how you'd go with this: sweet corn and dragon fruit, chopped dragon fruit.
Yeah, I'd try that.
Yeah,
I'd go for that. Yeah, I'd do that.
So, I think you'd be all right. There was always rice. Can you eat?
Yeah, I can have rice. So if you go on a Wendy Wu tour normally, are there meals included with those as well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's good. All right. So that gives you that kind of, book a tour, and then you get everything's kind of organized.
Yeah, you don't have to worry. And because I would recommend doing China as a group, on a group tour or an organized tour, because you're up against a lot of locals who know the land, and the queues are long. I'm talking Eiffel Tower, Mona Lisa type of queues. So you need to fast track. You need to go to the fast track. You need to pay whatever you need to pay. Otherwise, you'll be spending half a day in a queue waiting to get to somewhere. And they can organise all that for you. You don't have to worry about that.
I think that's always the advantage of doing an organised tour. I was in India in February and March for 6 weeks, and I did 2 lots of Intrepid tours, and that was my introduction to India, which now I'd probably feel a bit more confident about going back to India and doing that myself. But on the initial visit, and I'm very much a person who likes to do everything myself. We did 5 months traveling around Asia, and I organised everything myself. But I think when it came to India, and I think if I was going to Central China as well, I'd be looking at a tour for that. Because it is so different, and you say there's advantage of being on a tour for something like that.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of English.
Yeah,
and I think the other thing was we had a local tour guide as well as our Wendy Wu tour guide, and between the two of them, they really gave us insights that helped to understand exactly what's happening. Like the crying bride story. Once you knew that was a legend, or the fox lady, the story behind that, then you can go somewhere and you can appreciate things a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big advocate for doing tours when you go places, and I do that for my UK travel planning podcast and website. And whenever we're talking to people about visiting the UK, it's like, don't just go for example, at Westminster Abbey or Tower of London, people go, don't just go in, pay in and wander around, because you're going to wander out and you'll have seen it, but you won't know anything about it. And it's the same. And you go somewhere, you need to understand. And I know, just talking back about India as well again, is that we had local guides in a lot of the places we went, and that was perfect, absolutely perfect. And you remember those things a lot more than if you just kind of wandered around yourself, maybe either reading it out of a guidebook or something, because you don't know all that information.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's really good. So, that was excellent. It sounds like you had a really good trip. I'm very envious.
I did. I really didn't know what to expect, because, as I mentioned, I've been to China a few times, done the big cities. I've been on the Great Wall of China, did the Sanya thing, and so I sort of had an idea of what China was about. But wow, this place was not what I expected. I'd done the research, and I thought, oh yeah, elevators and and lifts and cable cars and all this sort of stuff. But once you're doing it, glass bridges and glass walkways, wow, it was just like one thing after another. And it was just, everything was bigger and sort of more impressive than I could have imagined.
So that's brilliant. Well, you've inspired me, and I'm sure lots of people, when they're listening to this podcast, are going, well, I like the sound of this. Or maybe they've been to China before and thinking, well, I want to do something different. So this sounds like something that could be different.
If you want to just
So what would be your one tip for anyone contemplating a trip to Central China?
Wear dresses and skirts.
Why?
Why? Because even though in some places you will find Western toilets, there's a lot of squat toilets, and you seriously do not want to be getting out of pants inside a squat toilet.
Well, that's a very useful and very practical piece of advice, Kerry. Thank you. So thanks again for coming on to this episode of the podcast. It's always really good to talk to you. And I know we're going to be talking in a few months about some other fantastic trips that you have planned. You really do have a great time, Mark, I know, with all the places that you go. So it's brilliant that you're going to come back on and share some of that with our listeners. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Kerry.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to know more of the details, and because, it's all melded together a bit more in my mind, I have got my top 10 for Zhangjiajie on my website. So they can pop in and have a look at that and get the places to visit.
Well, that's perfect. I was going to say, actually, because in the show notes for this episode, which will be at globaltravelplanning.com/episode 22, you will get the photos that Kerry took, links to her YouTube channel, links to her Instagram, and links to her articles on her website too. So you can get all about that information. And obviously, if you're interested in booking a tour to Central China, I will also put links into the Wendy Wu Tours as well. So you can find all of that information there. But yeah, thanks again, Kerry. It's always lovely to talk to you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. For more details and links to everything we discussed today, check out the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on your favourite podcast app, because your feedback helps us reach more travel enthusiasts just like you. Anyway, that leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning.